Hey everybody, welcome back to Eluda Racing. So in this video we're going to kind of do a quick update on what we've been doing to the Grand National, what's been done, what's in the works, and all that good stuff. So if you remember the last video I did, we were doing the rear bumper fillers, and there was an issue with the fitment on the rear fillers. So while I was getting that squared away with the vendor, I went ahead and I did some other stuff to the car. And that's what I want to do today, is I just want to go over everything that I've done to the car to date, and then kind of show you all that, and then what my next plans are and where I'm going from here. So one of the things I had mentioned before, if you remember, we were doing the trunk, and we did the metal prep, the encapsulator, and all that stuff. The trunk is now done. I went ahead and I actually did the interior of the car, the floor, or the whole floor of the car, and now this is all done as well. And if you're looking, you can see it turned out really good. I'm gonna insert a before picture right now, and then this is obviously the after. So we did the same thing as we did in the trunk as we did in here. Everything had to be cleaned properly. Heavy scale rust and all the loose old paint and everything like that had to be properly cleaned off. We then had to use the metal prep and allow that to neutralize the rust and everything like that. I also then went ahead and I did the seam sealer, which is not real easy to see because there wasn't a lot of bad areas, but like this is a factory seam, here's a factory seam, and I just went over the whole floor, and anywhere where there was a factory seam I went ahead, and if the factory seam sealant was loose, I scraped that off, cleaned it, neutralized it properly, re-seam sealed it, and then I went ahead and I used the rust encapsulator, the coating. So this is the finished product. It turns out into a real nice matte finish. I think I couldn't be happier. And the thing is now I have peace of mind of knowing that for probably the rest of my life I'm not gonna have to worry about any rust issues on the car. So if you have a vehicle that you're wanting to restore or bring back or even just preserve, I would highly recommend buying this stuff and using it. It doesn't cost a lot of money, and it's something that you can do on your own in your garage or in your shop. You don't need to take it out and spend a lot of money and have somebody else do it. And you can still get high quality results. What I did is as good as anybody else is going to do, and they're probably going to charge you, in excess of a couple $1,000s to do what I did. So you save yourself the money and have the satisfaction of knowing that you did it, and you can take all the credit for it. So moving on from there, we're going to go up to the motor, or the engine bay, and here you can see I've been doing a lot of stuff in here. I mean, the engine bay has been completely detailed. I have literally went over this with a fine-tooth comb and a brush. I mean, this thing, I have degreased and scrubbed every nook and cranny, every crack and crevice, you name it. However, whatever thing you want to say, it's been done. This has all been repainted. The factory undercoat. These cars are notorious for having a really nasty factory undercoating that's sprayed all in here, and I mean, to be blunt, it looks like shit. So I took and cleaned all that off. I used an acetone and I cleaned it all off, and did some touching up and some paint where it needed to, and I think it looks leaps and bounds better. And then you can also see I've also done some other things in here too. And what I'm going to do is I want to kind of just gloss over everything real quick, but then we're going to do some separate videos and go into detail on these things. I had probably 7 hours of video footage of me doing the tear down and the replacement and everything that I messed up on my computer, and I ended up deleting it before it actually ended up getting transferred from the camera. So I've lost days and days worth of work that I put into here that I wanted to show you guys, because as you can see on here, you know, I've done the translator relocation, I've done the MAF pipe, I've done the up pipe. If you notice, the alternator is new. That's a new high amp alternator, so there was going to be a segment where I went into the alternator upgrade. I've also installed a 4-core radiator. I mean, I've done, you know, I've got an oil separator, a catch can that's here. I mean, I just, you name it, and I've got a lot more stuff that I plan on doing to the car, but I was going to go over those and make those individual videos rather than just do what I'm doing now. So I just wanted to kind of make this video and show you everything that I've done up to date, bring you a little bit of an update. You know, we've obviously done the wires. Like I said, we've done the up pipe. That's a 3-inch up pipe, so it's a larger diameter over the stock. We've done the matching MAF pipe, and you know, with the silicone sleeves and stuff like that. This alternator, since I brought it up, I might as well explain what this is. This is actually a 140 amp alternator that comes off of a 1996 Impala SS. Now, you know, you guys that know a lot about Grand Nationals, you're going to say, well, the factory Grand National alternator is 120 amp. What's 20 amps going to make a difference for? Well, actually it makes a big difference, and I'll tell you why. It's 20 more amps, but it's 20 more amps at probably half the RPM. This alternator is going to put out 140 amps at 850 RPM or above, where our factory alternator put out 120 amps, but it was at like 1500 to 1800 RPM. So what would happen is, and I know anybody that's got a Grand National that paid attention, when you pull up to a light, it's in the evening time, you got your headlights on, you got the stereo blasting, you're doing whatever, you got the AC on or whatever, you ever notice when you go to the light, everything goes dim. That's because it's dropping below that threshold, that RPM threshold, and you're actually undercharging your car. You're not putting the full voltage to the fuel pump, to the injectors. The entire car is starving for voltage. So to do this, it makes a huge difference. And then the other thing, what a lot of people don't seem to realize is, when you had these cars from the factory, you weren't putting on volt boosters, you weren't putting on twin 340 liter per hour fuel pumps, you weren't doing big injectors, you weren't doing bigger turbos, you weren't throwing a 12-inch sub in the trunk, you weren't doing all these things that were putting a strain and a draw on that charging system. So if the car was 100% stock and you didn't do anything to it, is the factory alternator good enough? Yes, absolutely. Engineers that are much smarter than me, you, and everybody else spec'd that alternator to work on this car. But when you start adding performance things and you start doing other things, dual fans, and you know, like I said, all these other things that you're doing all take power. And it's at that point when you do that, you cross that line, that stock alternator is not sufficient anymore. And that is why I did that. It's a good analogy, is it's like it's a lot easier to oversize and undersize and make something work easier than be taxed out all the time. You know, would you rather pull a trailer with a 4-cylinder Ranger or a turbo diesel F250 or whatever your brand of choice is? You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm trying to say. This alternator is going to work a lot easier and do the same job as your factory one, but at half the effort. And you can buy these alternators for less than $90. So I bought this alternator off eBay, $81, shipped to Michigan, lifetime warranty. No brainer, no brainer. So yeah, so that's one thing I wanted to go over with. Now a couple other things that I have planned here in the next future, or in the next few days actually, is we're going to be changing over the vacuum block. I have a new billet aluminum vacuum block, And the reason I got that is for a couple reasons. This is the one I got. It's from the parts place. Now this is the billet aluminum vacuum block, and it also has the extra vacuum port on the other side, which is going to be on the driver's side, and that is going to be for the brakes. This has been converted to vacuum brake rather than the factory hydraulic brake system. So in doing that, you want to have as short of a vacuum line as possible. Now this, what the previous owner did was when they converted it, they just ran a vacuum line around and over, and they're tapping in right here, which is fine, but I want to clean it up. I want to shorten this hose up, and we want to go, so we're going to go from here straight there, shorter run, and less likely to have no brakes after coming off a boost, because that's the big problem when you convert these over to the vacuum boost style of system, is you'll be running at boost and then you let off the gas and then you have no brakes because you don't have sufficient vacuum saved up. So by running the shorter line and using this part along with the one-way check valve, these have a check valve as well, it will store the vacuum and it will maintain it better than the older way of doing it, which is this way right here. This was done quite some time ago, and it's an old outdated way. So the parts place made this new vacuum block, and it's a better, cleaner look, dresses it up, and it's actually a lot safer and better for you. So that's going to be the next thing that I actually plan on doing, and we're going to do a video for that. Some other things that I'm going to be installing is the volt blaster. And what the volt blaster does is, once you're coming off idle, this will take your standard 12.4 to 13.2 volt alternator, and it's going to bump it up about another volt. So as you're getting on the throttle, this is going to up that voltage, and it's going to give more voltage to the entire electrical system. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the upgraded alternator. Casper's makes one. A lot of companies make these, but Volt Blaster is the one I've used in the past on my other Grand Nationals. I've had a couple of them, and I've always had good luck with this. They're tunable. You can change it, and it's got a nice little test button, so you can hit it and see, you know, what the voltage is and stuff like that with the meter. So that's going to be getting installed. We're also going to be doing an EGR delete, and I'm just waiting on the gasket for that. Once that comes in, we're going to be doing that. A couple other things that I got that I'm excited for are from a company called Ractronix, and I got basically a new plug and play. This is a fuel injector harness upgrade, and this goes along with this fuel injector Hotwire Kit. And essentially what we're doing is, this is going to bolt right onto the back of the alternator, and we're going to have straight 12 volts coming right off the alternator to the injectors, so they will not be starved for voltage. I think you see a pattern here, and that is Grand Nationals are very prone to voltage problems and ground problems. So if you have an old Grand National, these are things that you want to do to enhance the car, and you also want to, it's an overall improvement. So that's things that can be done relatively inexpensively. It's stuff you can do yourself, and it will make the drivability and the performance of the car a lot better. Now, along with the distribution, the vacuum block, I also got replacement hoses for that. Those are all original hoses. They're known for dry rotting and cracking, and vacuum leaks are, I mean, it's a really big thing that you have to be mindful of on these cars. And if I'm going to disturb all these hoses and take this block off, I just wanted to start off fresh. So it's going to be all new hoses, new block, new gasket. Speaking of all those hoses, that's something that I would like to kind of go over with a lot of you guys. You know, if you have a car like this one. Like I said, this car sat for close to 10 years, and in that time, you know, things break down, things degrade, and there's a lot of things that you want to do to a car that's been sitting for a long time before, other than just putting a battery in it, firing it up, and taking it out on the road and just beating the, you know, the piss out of it. You need to, you know, you're going to blow a head gasket, you're just going to wreck a car. So, especially on a turbo car. So these cars are very prone to having vacuum leaks. They're prone to having problems with these old hoses cracking, and then, you know, you get bleed off and you get suction leaks, and it's really bad for the car. So what I would suggest before you do anything is you need to get the car roadworthy before you start upgrading it and then taking it out and beating on it. And when I say that, I mean, you know, you want to go over all of these little connections, these emissions line, all these vacuum lines and everything like that. If you grab one of these fittings, and I've got an old one here I wanted to show you as a reference. If you've got a fitting, you know, like this, if you can grab this fitting and you can go like that and you can rub it and it turns your hand black, this fitting right here, or the hoses in general, the rubber hose, if you can rub your hand over these and they leave a black mark, that means they're falling apart. They have to be replaced. And it's a big job. It's a very tedious job because there are so many lines on here, but it's very, very important that you do that. So that would be one of the very first things I would want to do, and I have done, and I plan on continuing to do on this car. But if I was you, that would be one of the first things I would do when bringing one of these cars back to life, or any type of car that is, you know, along the caliber of this car. Another thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to flush all your fluids, change your oil, change your trans fluid, drain your radiator, replace your antifreeze, brake fluid, power steering fluid. All these things that have been sitting, they go bad and they can become toxic, and they can actually end up eating away and hurting other components when left in for a long period of time. A lot of people forget about stuff like that. So those are things that I would recommend. I drained all of my brake fluid, and I replaced it. I drained my power steering fluid, I replaced it. Obviously I started off with new antifreeze because we did the radiator upgrade. So that's things that you want to do. Those are all important things that you want to do when you're bringing one of these cars back to life. So another thing that I did is when I went to the 4-core, I went to an external cooler. I actually have 2 of these. This one right now is set up for the transmission. I also have an external oil cooler, but I damaged the oil filter sandwich plate when I was putting in the dash 6 lines, the fittings, so I have to get another one of those. So right now we're just running the one, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to have one here and one there. They're going to be side by side, and we'll have external coolers both for trans and engine oil. I highly recommend these. So yeah, and then like I said, we went with the larger MAF pipe, larger up pipe, silicone collars, relocated the translator up here. This is a translator relocation bracket, and I just put a little aluminum aftermarket cover on there just to kind of dress it up a little bit. I don't want it gaudy, but I just want to, you know, bring a little bit more flair to the engine bay, you know, give it a little more pop when you open it up. So yeah, that's pretty much where we're at right now. I just wanted to give everybody an update on the car and show you the progression and where it's at and where it's going. And we've got a couple other big things that are in the works. I've got some AEM gauges, and we're going to be installing those. The next thing I'm going to be jumping on is we're going to start throwing the interior back together, because the painter has called me a couple times. He's ready for this car, so I need to get on the ball and get this thing back together and in movable condition, because it was torn apart. I have a brake line that I've got to repair that blew, so we've got to do that so we can get this thing on a trailer and get it over to the painter. But yeah, I just wanted to show you a quick upgrade and an update and a big before and after of the engine bay and everything that I've done on it so far. I wish I wouldn't have lost the footage because I have a lot of hours invested into this engine bay, and it just really bugs me that I lost all that footage. But what are you gonna do? So yeah, like always, you know, please like, subscribe, turn on your notifications so you can get the updates, and you know, I post a new video. And if you have anything that you would like to see or anything like that, any suggestions, please feel free to comment. I always enjoy the comments and stuff like that. You know, everything, keep it positive, obviously. But yeah, so please like, subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.